The silence in the cramped, barren room was deafening. It was a silence that seemed to echo off the walls, amplifying the emptiness that filled the space. It pressed down on her, suffocating her, as if the very air had turned to lead. She felt trapped, unable to escape the weight of her own thoughts. The silence was a cruel reminder of all she had lost. Every corner of the room seemed to whisper the names of those who were no longer there. Her heart, once overflowing with love and laughter, was now a heavy weight in her chest. It was as if the joy had been drained from her very soul. The war had taken everything. It had ravaged not just the land, but the lives of those who had once called it home, her husband, her children. Each loss was a dagger to her heart, a wound that would never fully heal. Her home, her purpose. She was alone. The war had stripped her of everything that had once defined her life. She was a widow at 30, a title she never wished for. It was a cruel twist of fate that had left her to navigate a world turned upside down. A title bestowed upon her by a war that had stolen her youth, her joy, her very reason for being. The streets, once filled with life, were now echoes of a past she could never reclaim. She closed her eyes, and the memories, vivid and painful, came flooding back. Each memory was a reminder of what had been, and what could never be again. It was like living in a real-life version of Stranger Things, where the world had flipped upside down and she was left to navigate the upside down alone. Before the war, their lives had been simple, filled with the ordinary joys of family life, the aroma of freshly baked bread, her husband's warm embrace, the infectious laughter of their 3 children. These were the sounds of her happiness. She remembered their cozy cottage, nestled amidst rolling green hills, the air always sweet with the scent of honeysuckle and freshly cut grass. They were not wealthy, but they had each other, and that was all that mattered. "I promise to return to you. No matter what happens, I will find my way back to you." Then, the war had cast its long, dark shadow over their lives. It was a time of uncertainty and fear, where every day felt like a battle for those left behind. The men of the village, her husband among them, were called to duty. They left their homes, their families, and their lives behind to answer the call of their country. He had been hesitant to leave, his eyes mirroring her own fear and uncertainty. The weight of his decision was heavy, but he knew he had to go. But duty called, and he was a man of honor. He marched forward with determination, knowing that his sacrifice was for a greater cause. "I promise to return to our children. I will come back to see them grow, to be there for their milestones." He promised to return to her, his voice thick with emotion as he held her close. The embrace was long, filled with unspoken words and deep love. He promised to return to their children, showering them with kisses and tucking them into bed one last time. Each kiss was a silent vow, a promise that he would come back to them, no matter the cost. The telegram arrived on a day much like any other. The sun was shining, birds were singing, yet the world stood still as she read the fateful words. "Deeply regret to inform you, killed in action. Deepest condolences." The paper slipped from her numb fingers. The words swam before her eyes. This wasn't real. It couldn't be. Her husband, her rock, her soulmate, gone, snatched away by the cruel hand of war. A choked sob escaped her lips, the first of many tears she would cry. Section 5, Struggling to Survive. Life became a struggle, a daily battle against poverty and despair. Ration lines replaced laughter. Fear replaced hope. She was determined to shield her children from the worst of it, to keep their innocent spirits unbroken. She found work where she could, her hands raw and calloused. She would mend clothes late into the night, the only sound her needle stitching through fabric. Her only companions the flickering candlelight and the ghosts of her memories. Section 6. A Mother's Worst Nightmare. The influenza epidemic hit their village with the force of a hurricane. It swept through the narrow streets, leaving a trail of devastation in its wake. Her children, weakened by hunger and cold, were vulnerable. One by one they succumbed to the illness, their small bodies racked with fever. their coughs a constant reminder of her helplessness. She watched in agony as the light faded from their eyes, their tiny hands growing cold in hers. She was living every mother's worst nightmare. Section 7. Lost and alone. With her children gone, she lost her will to fight. She was evicted from their cottage, her meager possessions tossed onto the street. She wandered the streets, a ghost haunting the ruins of her former life. People averted their eyes, their faces etched with a mixture of pity and discomfort. They saw only a beggar, a burden on society. They did not see her pain, her loss, her humanity. Section 8. Forgotten by society. The war had ended, but for her the battle raged on. The world had moved on, celebrating victory and rebuilding their shattered lives. Yet, she remained trapped in the trenches of her grief, forgotten and alone. She had lost everything: her love, her children, her home, her place in the world. The war had stripped her bare, leaving behind only a hollow shell, a chilling reminder of the devastating human cost of conflict. Section 9. Lest we forget. This chapter is dedicated to the countless souls who have endured the ravages of war, their stories etched in the annals of history. Her story is not unique. It is a reflection of the countless women who have faced the same heart-wrenching reality. It is a story repeated countless times throughout history, a testament to the enduring power of love and the devastating consequences of war. Each farewell, each tear shed, is a chapter in the larger narrative of human resilience. We must remember her pain, her sacrifice, her resilience. These emotions are not just hers, but belong to an entire generation of women who stood strong in the face of unimaginable loss. We must remember the stories of all those who suffered, who faced the horrors of the battlefield and the silence of the aftermath, who lost their lives and loved ones in the name of something larger than themselves. Their bravery and sacrifice are the bedrock of our history. Let their stories serve as a reminder of the fragility of peace, a peace hard won and easily lost, and the importance of cherishing every moment of love and happiness we are given. Lest we forget, let us honor their memory by striving for a world where such sacrifices are no longer necessary.